This is American Ground Radio. I'm Stephen Parr with Louis R. Avalon Lewis. Before we get into it, I need to say welcome to KKXX in Paradise, California, the latest station to be on the American Ground Radio Network. I can't tell you how proud we are to be broadcasting in Northern California on Life Radio.
Way out there on the West Coast.
We are coast to coast, baby.
That's fantastic.
4 time zones.
We're glad to be with you all and all of our listeners all across this blessed land. Andy Slavitt was Joe Biden's senior advisor to the COVID response team.
Okay, Andy Slavitt.
Andy Slavitt. Well, he just stepped down. He's got a new book out right now.
Wait, he just stepped down?
And he's got a new book. He stepped down last week.
I tell you what, if you work for the Biden administration for a full 5 months, that's just exhausting.
Oh, it must be.
Yeah.
Well,
okay.
The commander-in-chief's not doing a whole lot, so it leaves
a lot of work. Well, look,
for everyone else.
The guy's put in his time, 5 months. That's all anybody can be expected to work. He should cash in now with a big book.
So get this. He writes a book called Preventable, and it's the inside story on how leadership failures, politics, and selfishness. Oh, we're going to get into that.
Okay.
How selfishness doomed the U.S. coronavirus response. And guess whose fault? That the former Joe Biden senior advisor to the COVID response team, Andy Slavitt, believes that the response, the failed response, the allegedly failed response to COVID-19, guess whose fault it is?
Donald Trump's.
Well, of course it's Donald Trump's.
Yeah.
Everything is Donald Trump's fault. However, you know who else's fault it is?
I'm going to go Melania Trump.
Not Melania.
No. Is it...
no, it's you.
Me.
It's you.
What'd
it's
I
you
do?
and every one of our listeners. It's the American people. You know why?
What?
He says that you didn't sacrifice enough for your fellow man during the COVID-19 pandemic.
He did not say that.
He told CNN's John Berman, first he said there were political leadership mistakes.
He did not say that.
No, wait, hold on.
All right.
First he said there were political leadership mistakes, and of course that was Donald Trump.
All right,
Donald Trump denied the virus for too long, but you know that's an out-and-out lie.
That is.
Because in January of 2020, as the virus began to come out, Trump formed the coronavirus task force.
And he shut down travel from China.
Exactly.
And Democrats called him racist for doing it.
So he was not denying the virus. Of course, that's not the narrative that the Democrats want to tell, but nevertheless, it's just an out-and-out lie. But then Mr. Slavitt gets to his contempt for the American people, which is the mark of a true Democrat. And here is what he had to say.
If we're honest, we also had two other types of mistakes that caused a lot of loss of life. One were just plainly political leadership mistakes. There was a lot. We denied the virus for too long out of the Trump White House. There was too much squashing of dissent and playing on divisions. But I'd also think we all need to look at one another and ask ourselves, what do we need to do better next time? And in many respects, being able to sacrifice a little bit for one another to get through this and to save more lives is going to be essential, and that's something that I think we could all have done a little bit better on.
I don't know. Maybe next time we should be funding lab work in China that teaches viruses how to kill humans faster. Maybe we shouldn't do that next time.
But did he not see all of the pain that Americans were put through? I mean, seriously, let's talk about all the people that lost their jobs.
Right.
The kids who couldn't go to school.
Right.
The people who couldn't visit their parents in the nursing homes. The parents who died in those nursing homes. Those that couldn't have funerals for their parents because it wasn't allowed. Those that were denied medical treatment.
Those who died from heart disease or cancer because they didn't get appropriate screening.
Not to mention just the denial of normal human interaction. Let me ask you, pray tell, what would you have had us give up additionally?
That we didn't give up 40%, 39% of all small businesses in the United States are gone. 39%. That's 4 out of 10 small businesses no longer exist. You're telling me we didn't sacrifice enough for each other?
No, and look, the American people came together at the beginning because guess what? We were told
2
that
weeks.
we had to flatten the curve.
2 weeks to flatten the curve. Okay, we're in.
And if you wondered aloud about the unintended consequences, or
we did,
or you dared not to believe the now defunct predictive models.
As
you know
we
what
did.
you were called? You were callous. You were heartless. You were putting dollars ahead of the millions of lives that were on the line.
You should have seen what people wrote on our Facebook pages when we went, did anybody think this through? Did anybody do a cost-benefit analysis? Did anybody go, how many people are going to suffer because of our efforts to save some other people? How many people are going to die deaths of despair because of the lockdown? How many we asked these questions and we were told that we were jerks for asking them, and yet we were right.
How many of us had a routine doctor's visit scheduled?
I did.
Just to have something looked at or to talk to a doctor, but couldn't because your doctor's office was closed during the lockdown.
I did. My kids did.
According to the Centers for Disease Control, preventative care, just being able to go to see a doctor saves over 100,000 lives each year.
Right.
30 million Americans, for example, suffer from high blood pressure that is undiagnosed.
Guess what? I was on that list.
I
actually had the high blood pressure diagnosed, but I couldn't get in to see a doctor until late in the fall.
High cholesterol. Many people don't know their cholesterol is high until a routine doctor's visit. It's a simple blood test. Heart disease is the leading cause of death in the United States. Cancer detection, early cancer detection, saves lives.
Except this year, it didn't. We had extra deaths from heart attacks. We had extra deaths from cancer this year. That's what the data says. On top of what we would normally expect in a regular year, we had extra deaths. And that's because we were making supposed sacrifices for one another, weren't we?
A 20% increase in drug overdose deaths.
Oh, yeah.
As a result of
deaths
of
of
the
despair
pandemic.
were up. How many kids attempted suicide because they weren't around their friends?
But see, it all goes back. And again, this is a core principle of liberalism, is that you, the people, the lowly people,
the little people,
you are not doing enough. You remember Obama back, this was during his administration, he said, look, I'm rooting for everybody to get rich, but I believe we can't ask everybody to sacrifice and then tell the wealthiest among us, well, you could just go relax and count your money and don't worry about it. We're not going to ask anything of you. Let me just tell you something. Taxes were due today. I paid my taxes today. Let me just tell you something. You asked a lot of me, okay? My blood and my sweat and my tears. So don't tell me, President Obama, don't tell me liberals. See, but that's what I'm talking about. It goes back to you're never giving, sacrificing
because
enough.
A socialist mindset says to each according to their needs, not according to their hopes, dreams, and desires, but according to their needs, their baseline needs, from each according to their ability. Your ability always outstrips your needs. I don't care who you are capable of more than you need. That's why capitalism works. Well, but if we're taking from everybody everything according to their ability, but we're only giving back to you the paltry thing that you have to need, well, that's no way to live.
1 in 2 Americans don't even pay income taxes. I know that's way off the point.
But what kind of sacrifices are we all supposed to make? Or we're not all supposed to make a sacrifice?
But see, Joe Biden's not any different. He's told us several times we've got to get some skin in the game.
Yeah.
We've got to get some skin in the game. We've got to get some skin in the game.
Said the millionaire president. Let's get to the top 3 things you need to know before tomorrow. Well, good news for our new listeners at KKYX. The state of California is finally reopening. This morning, Governor Gavin Newsom, who's facing a recall election, finally decided to lift his lockdown restrictions on the Golden State. Masks are no longer required. Businesses can have customers inside without restrictions. People are allowed to gather together to watch sporting events. Although, in order to attend an event of more than 5,000 people, you'll have to show proof that you are fully vaccinated.
So they're going to have vaccine passports in California?
Yes.
You know, I think Gavin Newsom just figured out if you can't beat them, join them at this point.
And at this point, he wasn't going to beat him with this recall. We'll see if this little stunt works. Second thing you need to know before tomorrow, the Hyundai plant in Montgomery, Alabama is shutting down temporarily, putting around 1,000 people out of work for at least the next week. Hyundai says the problem is they can't get parts they need to build their vehicles. Specifically, the problem is a semiconductor shortage that's affecting a wide number of industries. GM, Ford, Chrysler, Subaru, Volkswagen, and Mercedes-Benz, among others, have all had to shut down their manufacturing plants in recent weeks because of the same shortage.
All right, so most folks have heard of the invisible hand and Adam Smith's invisible hand.
Right.
What's happening now in our country, the shortage of supplies, inflation creeping up, it's all a result of government interfering in the free market.
Apparently, semiconductor manufacturers weren't considered essential businesses back when we locked everything down.
Well, maybe if we just sacrificed more, this wouldn't have happened.
The third thing you need to know before tomorrow, Texans are being asked to stop using as much electricity as possible this next week. ERCOT, which oversees the Texas power grid and was largely responsible for the massive power failures during this winter's ice storm, issued a statement yesterday requesting people in Texas not set their thermostats below 78 degrees and not use large appliances during the day. Apparently, several coal and gas power plants are offline for maintenance reasons. In addition, wind farms are not producing as much electricity this week as normal due to low winds. ERCOT says they are investigating to see why so many power plants are offline during this week.
I love the Lone Star State, but it got hijacked with respect to its energy needs.
Right. Maybe you shouldn't have people who don't live in your state controlling who gets electricity in your state. And that's not a good idea.